Ask again.
Yes, we are. I just saw the sign.
No, we are. Oh, you're so funny. I wish you were able to be here with us, honestly. Boa noite a todos, pessoal. Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma sessão comentada do 17º Fantaspoa. Fantaspoa 2021 conta com o patrocínio da Lei 14.017 de 2020, a Lei Aldir Blanc. E nessa noite a gente tem o grande prazer de ter uma sessão comentada com a querida Jill Gervagizian, que está vindo falar conosco a partir da sunny Florida. And Jill, thank you so much for playing the stylist with us. It's a very powerful film, and I'm very glad to have it in the festival.
Thank you so much for playing it and for having me here virtually.
It's a pleasure. And now I leave you to Felipe, who will be doing the Q&A with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so Jill, I was checking your IMDb earlier, and I saw that you already have an expressive filmography as a independent horror filmmaker, right?
A lot of short films and all and different
shorts
types
and
of
anthologies,
things.
Right? In anthologies, right?
Yes.
So what drew you to horror in first place, and how you became involved with independent filmmaking?
Well, I've loved anything that scares me since I was a little kid. And then so once I discovered horror movies, I became obsessed. And so slowly I went to my first horror convention, but not till I was in my late 20s. I wish I had gone as a teenager. And when I discovered that community and how close everyone is, I got to see a lot of independent films that weekend, and it just really inspired me. So I came back to Kansas City, which is where I'm from. I'm not home right now, and started an independent screening series, which I ran up until the pandemic kind of stopped us. But through doing that, meeting lots of filmmakers and showing their work, I just became so inspired that I wanted to get involved. I had done a lot of creative stuff growing up. I danced, I played music, I was into photography. So it just kind of felt like everything coming together when I finally discovered it. And just dove in, not knowing really anything. I haven't been to film school, so I'm still learning as I go, I think.
You made experiments in the times of film or video, or you started with digital already?
I guess I started with digital. When I was younger, we would still consider this digital. I would shoot stuff with my dad's VHS camcorder on tape, but I've got to work on film a couple of times. I was an assistant director on a film called Frankenstein Created Bikers, which was shot on 35 millimeter, and that was a wildly exciting experience for a million reasons, especially learning film and realizing, it's an actual thing that has a finite amount. You can't, like, you run out at one point and then you can't shoot anymore. So that's really interesting. And it made me think, like, maybe we're too easy on ourselves with digital. We need to be more, disciplined and not let us just redo stuff over and over just because we can.
Expensive.
Yeah.
So this stylist was born as a short and as an episode of an anthology, right?
It's been a part of a few compilations. It wasn't made for any anthology.
Not an official anthology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we made it as a short first, just because I wanted to make a feature, honestly, from the start with that idea, but I knew I needed more experience as a director and filmmaker. So I just thought this would be something we could make in a smaller way and show it when we were trying to get the feature made. But it's been a long time. It was 2016 when we released the short film.
Yeah. As a test, maybe to do a feature later.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was my next question. If you intended since the beginning to turn into a feature?
Yes, it was. It was always our hope, but I didn't honestly have the story solidified from the start. We started with the short.
And it worked well in the circuit of festivals, or just in this kind of anthologies and compilations.
It did play a lot of festivals. It was like my biggest festival run I've had as a filmmaker, and it won, if I can brag, it won like 20 awards, and it streamed on Shudder for a couple years. It's on Alter right now, and it got 1 million views in like 6 months, so we're really excited about that. But it's something I'm very proud of, and we were very excited to finally expand it into the full length.
And it was challenging for you to turn this successful short into a feature, because it's longer, you need more story, more background.
Yeah,
it was a long process, or you still have the visuals very clear in your head when you are making the short?
It's interesting because in hindsight, the 5 years, and considering I had just started making shorts, it's not that long to get your first feature made, but it felt like a very long time while we were doing it. And we were trying to get it financed for a couple years before we decided to just like buckle down and figure out how can we do this independently without like a big company coming in with a huge amount of money to give to us. So we first challenge was developing the script, and then was trying to find financing, and then deciding to just try to do it on our own. But by on our own, I mean we did a Kickstarter, and hundreds of people helped us make it. So it's never on your own.
Yeah. So, Jill, there's an interesting thing that I have seen in Fantaspoa this year. New filmmakers given incredible roles to actors and actresses who have been working for, let's say, a long time, but maybe have never been properly perceived before. And it's amazing what you did, for example, with Najarra, is her name, right?
Yes.
Because she had almost 100 credits, if I saw it correctly in IMDb, but probably the first time that I really put my eyes in her, it was in your film, that I perceived her work. I don't know if you understand what I tried to say, but she made lots of film, but in your film, I can say, oh, this is a great character and a great actress, So how did you find her, and how it was to work with her in the short and in the feature?
Yeah, I met Najarra through her film Contracted. You may have heard of. It's another indie horror film, and she, within that film, it's like a body horror film where she kind of falls apart through the whole movie. And I was so impressed with her performance in that. I got to meet her at a film festival when I saw it, and she just stuck with me ever since. And about a year later, I was starting to think about casting the short film. She just kept coming to mind because she has this ability to I feel like emote so much without saying anything or barely even doing anything. It's like you can just see it in her eyes and
with her eyes. Yeah.
And so I knew this character was going to be a challenge because I wanted her to be weirdly emotionally relatable and grounded, while I know what she does is very over the top and insane, absurd. And so I feel like the performance was what would come down to it working. And Najarra just blew us away on the short film. And then I knew there was no way, like none of us were going to make the feature without her coming back to be Claire. And she was with us the whole process of, like reading all the scripts and giving feedback. And so she really helped build the character itself with me and the other writers. Honestly, like she's just as much a part of creating her and her whole background and how full she feels is really all the work she put into it with us. She's so, I mean, I like you. I think she's so talented. I want her to like have someone huge discover her and give her like, she's just so talented. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, as I say to you, maybe I saw her in other pictures before, but I really noticed her in your film because she's amazing in that role, you know. And she was your only choice for the feature.
Yes.
Never considered to change.
No way. No way. Okay. At one point, somebody said something about maybe considering a bigger, the business side of this is, finding names equals finding money. And I am so sick of that game that we're all playing. But with this one, I was like, you could get me the biggest actor in the world and I would not want to change it. Like, I love working with Najar, and I feel like she just really understands and cares about Claire as much as I do. And that means like everything. So.
Yeah. And it's also great to see Bria Grant because she's an actress and is a great filmmaker too. I loved her movie 12-Hour Shift is one of my favorites from past year. I don't know if you saw it.
I have.
Yeah, it's amazing. And how did you choose her to be in your picture? And being a filmmaker, she gave you any assistance, any hints about directing, or she was very actress in your picture?
Yeah. I met Bria through another project that I was attached to direct and she was starring in, but we haven't yet made it. Like we all have all these projects we hope we'll make someday. But ever since I met her, I just kept picturing her in this role because I felt like she embodied so much of who Olivia, the character, is in her real life. And so she just kept coming to mind. And until we decided to do the Kickstarter and do it ourselves, I hadn't asked her about it. But so when I reached out to her, it kind of came down to her if she was available, because like you said, she's even blown up even more as a writer director in the last few years. 12-Hour Shift, she wrote and directed, and then she has a film that just came out called Lucky that she wrote and starred in, a brand new horror film. She's writing on a CW show, Pandora, and directing on it. I mean, it was really like the schedule of shooting the stylist. It was, can she do it? But I didn't have any backup plan if she couldn't do it. So I don't know what I was going to do. But working with Brie was kind of like a surreal thing for me because I grew up watching her and stuff, and I never knew I'd ever even know this person, let alone maybe work with them. So she's great because she would give me insight when I would ask for it, but she's not the kind of person to try to overstep bounds. She would never suggest something unless I asked, but she's an incredible collaborator and just such a smart woman, especially she's working with another writer is really helpful. And it was a dream to see her and Najara come together and play the characters because they're meant to be the same but opposites at the same time. So that really awkward clash of their personalities, it like makes me smile even though it's very uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. It's perfectly awkward.
Yeah. It is. And finally, you are there too. And spoiler alert, you are killed by your villain.
Yes.
Is this a joke, or as everybody else, you think it's funny to mess with fake blood and this kind of stuff?
It's a little bit of everything. It's like living out a childhood dream of being killed in a horror movie, and like I've been in stuff this is the biggest, most involved thing I've done on camera, and it's nerve-wracking for me. It's not easy for me to be on camera. So it was also a practical thing from us, the producers, when we were trying to cast all of the people who get killed in the movie need to be cast early because of the special effects that need to be made.
Yeah.
And so it was a practical decision in the sense of my hair is easy to match and I'll work for free. So I had to have a talk with myself, like, can you commit to this, Jill? Because you can't back out once you like have the wig made and the prosthetic and stuff. So it was like a challenge to do it. It was really cool to like be killed by my creation, essentially. I don't know. It was fun.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Yes.
Yeah. So you may have heard it many times, but was William Lustig's Maniac your an inspiration for your film, or maybe incidentally?
It's weird. It wasn't initially because I didn't grow up having seen Maniac. I don't know how. It was more of really inspired by Leatherface and May, Lucky McKee's film May.
Yeah. Angela Bettis.
Of course, you can't deny the scalping thing because Maniac is the original serial killer scalper, and there are a lot of similarities. Him crying with the mannequins and
the mannequins.
The past trauma I envision is similar. I just didn't want to show Claire's in the same way. But yeah, I actually never saw the original. I didn't see the original until I saw the remake at a film festival, and then I went back and watched the original, and I love both of them. And they definitely influenced the film, but somehow it skipped me like growing up when I first discovered horror films. But yeah, I love Maniac. Love Maniac.
Okay. So João is asking, I honestly love the film, and I think it's one of the best horror films of the year. I would to know what are your main film influences when you grew up, even more non-genre influences, not horror. Yeah. Let's see.
Well, a really one that might not makes a lot of sense. I think it does with the stylist, but is Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. That movie really, really affected me and still does. The one with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. Claire was named after Claire Danes. The ending is very Shakespearean to me on purpose, and ending in a church. There's a lot of production design stuff we pulled from Romeo and Juliet in the stylist. I'm also a huge fan of David Fincher. I know he's genre. He's not necessarily horror, but I mean, of course, we all have that debate of horror, thriller, crime. I love it all. It all connects. Like Seven and Zodiac are some of my favorite films. But also like Sling Blade is one of my favorite films as well of all time. I really like like to me, Sling Blade is a super confrontational film about a man who's could be looked at as a villain if you told it from a different perspective, but you understand why he's done what he's done. And so I really like character pieces and stuff like that. But I could ramble about inspirations in movies I love forever.
Yeah. So I love that you have practical effects in the film. It was great, and the art direction is amazing too. I want you to ask you about especially that dungeon that the villain has with the mannequins and the scalpels, and the place where Claire works. It exists, or it's a set? Because it's an amazing scenario too.
Thank you. The salon that Claire works at, actually, I work at in real life right now. So people can come visit and experience the stylist in real life.
Without losing the hair.
Yes, without that part. It's a salon called Bob or Shop in Kansas City, Missouri. But Claire's basement, which we've been calling Claire's Lair, just because it rhymes and we're ridiculous. But that scene, I love the design of it so much. Our production designer, Sarah Sharp, and art director, Amelia Reeves, we spent so much time on crafting the design of this movie. We start like 6 months before we shot. And then Sarah, production designer, worked on the short film. So we, have been marinating on this for so long that it's like once we finally did it, we were like, pull out all the stuff we've been collecting for 5 years. But her basement, we designed in a way where, a lot of like serial killer rooms, I feel like are different in the sense that they're like cold and grimy and gross feeling.
Dirty.
Yeah. While hers,
yellow.
Yeah. While hers is not clean by any means, it's it's, you know, intentionally very warm, and it's supposed to feel, you know, since it's Claire's story and it's Claire's like safe place, we looked at it like this is her nest. This is where she feels comfortable. This is where she goes to escape. And so we wanted it to feel like she was surrounded by this warmth. And so like, so that's why we played into like only having like golden light down there, except for we have some blue light hidden in the background, which is a Romeo and Juliet nod. But the way we designed that was like, it should, the whole film, we thought like, this is Claire's story. So we're not trying to make people scared of her. We're trying to reflect her experience and how she feels about everything. So I'm so proud of how that basement turned out. And even the lighting, like my DP was collecting vintage lights to put around the vanity mirror for years before we shot. And since we had done that scene in the short, we really wanted to figure out like, how do we make it better without it looking like we were just trying to like make it 10 times bigger or something like. but I love the basement because it goes through. The basement goes through kind of the same narrative Claire does. Like it gets torn apart, it gets locked up, and then it's all the phases the basement go. We had to shoot that kind of in order. We're like, now we're going to destroy this room and then put it back together. And that was
And one thing that's interesting to me is that this kind of pictures you saw today, like thrillers or serial killer films, I don't know if something with the filters or maybe the art direction, but they look all the same. It's like lots of yellow, lots of green, it's looks like a Saw movie or a Hostel movie, but your movie is very colorful. So it's different. Yeah,
I think different. In defense of all that, it's funny because everyone's doing that inspired, I think, by David Fincher, who I just
probably.
Seven, I feel like, set that look, which is a gorgeous look. We wanted to make this film super colorful because we just knew we were going to go over the top with the style and design because we're like, this movie is called The Stylist. It's going to be like hyper stylish. So we really went crazy with the color palettes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the shop where Claire works is the same. You didn't change anything. Is the same shop that you work?
Oh no, it was changed around. It's the same. Most of that stuff exists in the salon. We added stuff to it, but like all that furniture is the actual salon. But it's funny. I'll think stuff is ready, and then my production designer comes in and adds so much stuff that I'm like, wow, this looked bare before she came in here. Like she added a lot of the purple and all like the colorful lights in the background. Like there's purple lights stringed on things in the background. That's not in the salon for real, but yeah.
Okay. I will ask you something. I wrote the question because I wanted to make sense. The film begins with a very long and disturbing scene. Then you choose a slower, like a slow burn kind of narrative, right?
Yeah.
This makes the opening scene to me more shocking, even more shocking. Did you have any conflicts during the production about how much to show and how much not to show regarding violence and this kind of the scalpel thing, for example?
Yeah. Not really any conflict, but we decided we had like a clear plan of how we were going to approach the violent scenes, and that they were going to escalate in every way with each one, because the film's really about like Claire's downward spiral, and how like the beginning of the film, that first kill is like, this is her normal routine, this is when stuff goes the way she plans. The rest of the film is like her completely losing control. Nothing is going as planned. This is not how she would normally do things. And so we wanted each one to represent she's losing more and more control. So like that opening when we're shooting, really far up and wide, but then we're getting closer and closer with each kill, and each one's getting messier as well. So that's kind of how we approached it. Like her mind's falling apart, so the camera's going to get closer, the gore's going to get bloodier. By the time we get to my kill, it's like blood everywhere.
Yeah,
huge fan of gore, so I was like, when we do the gore, let's do it.
Of course. But I'm used to gore in horror pictures, of course. But that first scene, maybe because it's surgical, or maybe because it's long, it's a long scene with the scalpel being. It's kind of disturbing, It's not for the squeamish. Probably people will run for a film because of the.
I hope so. I've always loved those kind of moments that really like it's so even will get me. It'll be like, oh, like you can feel it. So the short film, we did the same thing, honestly, where we showed the whole scalp come back, and we didn't know if it would work. We were like, we're just going to try this, and if it comes off, we'll see. You don't know with practical effects what's going to happen every single time. That's what's nerve-wracking.
Even the sound works very well. The sound design,
that's really what ends up selling it is the sound, which is hard to do because you're like, what does this sound like actually? We're not actually sure.
yeah, it's good that we don't know. So do women have always directed horror films? Like for example, in the 70s, in the 80s, we have many examples. But there is a very talented young generation making their mark in the genre right now. Are there filmmakers that whose work you follow very, very closely right now, and maybe inspired you to make your films?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like in the last year, so many female-made films have been coming out, and it's without even normally I'm really trying to make sure I see all of them and really follow just female, especially genre, but there's so many, and that's a good problem now.
It's difficult to follow.
I've really been following I cannot pronounce her name right, I'm sure. The director of Revenge, Coralie.
It's a
French name, so I'm going to say her name wrong. But I love Revenge. I thought it was such so many powerful decisions she made in that film. It was great to see a woman behind that type of concept finally. And I'm also I've been following Prano Bailey Bond's career. She just put out Censor that premiered at Sundance. But for instance, the Soska sisters have really been huge mentors to me. They've given me a lot of opportunities. I've got to second unit direct on ABC's of Death 2 with them. And so there's a lot of women in the community that have really helped, and we all kind of band together and help each other. So it's been an exciting few years, I think.
And it's about time, right?
Yes.
And are you already working on a new project, or you are selling the stylist?
All of the things at the same time. That's what's challenging. So I'm here in Orlando at the Florida Film Festival, another festival with the stylist, but I'm working on a project. I'm attached to direct with the writers of the horror film Porno that came out a year or two ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. Fangoria put it out.
We show in Fantaspoa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm working with those writers, Lawrence and Matt, on a new film. So we're kind of starting to send out offers to cast. So hopefully we're getting something moving soon. And, nothing I can talk about too much in detail because, it's all just stuff I'm working on, but excited to honestly get to work on a new script myself. I finally wrapped up a lot of stylist stuff.
Okay. My last question to you is, being a fan of horror, did you have fun with all the practical effects and the fake blood?
Yes. Yes. It's a lot of fun. It's funny that I feel like I have a lot of fun in the pre-production, and like our special effects artist, her name is Colleen Kaufman, and I'll go to her house and we discuss like how we're going to approach each kill, what we're going to shoot. I show her the storyboard so we know like where we can hide, what are we not seeing. But then when it comes down to the days that we shoot, it's nerve-wracking because I'm worried about the schedule and like the producer side. I know that if it doesn't go right, then that's 2 more hours of resetting blood and getting the person back in the situation. So it's exciting, and they're the most nerve-wracking days because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Did you made anything bigger during filming? For example, you storyboarded a scene, and then in the set, oh no, more blood, more gore, or
We
not?
definitely added more blood in many instances, I think. Especially the second kill where we go to the coffee shop where the accidental slice down the face. In fact, I didn't think we'd be able to show the actual motion of that. I pictured the edit would be like a reveal that she did it. But the action looked so cool on camera. I'm like, oh my God, that it was like, for me, it's like still like every time I watch it. So we just kept drenching that. Her name, Sarah McGuire, is the actress. And we just kept drenching that side of her face in more and more blood. Oh man. Well, once I sat through that, I was like, I realized that this is a lot more work than you realize, laying in blood for 5 hours straight. So it's cold. We shot in the winter in Missouri, in Kansas City. So like my scene, I was laying there for a few hours. I was like, I'm freezing, but it's all worth it.
And
so
it's glued in your body, right? The fake blood is glued in your clothes, and you need to take a bath after the.
Yes, it's a mess.
Yeah. So, do you have any final thoughts? Any final message to Brazil?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for watching the film, and please follow us on Instagram and all over the social media. We have lots of exciting announcements coming out. We're planning to put the score out on vinyl soon, so we've got some exciting stuff coming up.
Okay, feel safe to cut your hair in.
Yes. Come take a trip to Kansas City, and I can cut your hair for you.
Ooh, dangerous. So, Jill, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the movie.
And he wants scissors.
Joe is saying, I want scissors.
We've got to do the special edition scissors.
And Fernando is saying, I love the film in Portuguese.
Thank you so much.
Also in Portuguese, it's really fucked up.
Well, I think that's a compliment. Yeah, thank you.
So, thank you, Jill. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.